You're listening to Star Spangled Banter with James and Peyton, the social and political commentary podcast where we rant, you decide.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
What up, what up, what up?
Hey.
Welcome to the Star Spangled Banter. We're like the Daily Show, but weekly. Well, welcome. We're so excited to have you with us again for, what is this, episode 8 now?
9.
Episode 9. Damn, we're getting double digits
That's
soon. Right. I am your host on the left, Peyton Berger. With me as always on the right, Jim's Kaluger.
Jim's
Kaluger. I don't even know who you are.
I'm apparently a possession. What up, kids?
Man, it's been a hell of a week.
Oh, my God.
I'm all jumbled up right now.
Apparently.
Man. But we are here to bring you more great insanity, and boy, howdy, do we have some for you this week.
Oh, God.
Anywhere from ESPN to Hurricane Harvey to the Joe Arpaio pardon. That's not even half of the shit that happened.
Nope, that's not half, and that's just a couple little tidbits we're going to cover today.
This is a good one, but we are excited to have you with us, listeners, and we hope you enjoy, and we hope that we can brighten your day and enlighten your mind. Ooh, that was nice.
Ooh, that was good.
That was poetic.
Write that down.
We're here to brighten your day and enlighten your mind.
Better than enlightening your day and brightening your mind. That's probably what
Yeah, I think that's cancer. I think that might be a form of cancer. So, how you doing, Jimbo?
I'm hanging in there. I was doing a lot better until I found out the shitstorm of crap that's happening around this week.
Oh, right.
Okay, so you listeners out there got to understand, a lot of times the way we run this show is Peyton and I won't tell each other specifics until the day of recording.
Yep.
Because we kind of like to surprise each other. And sometimes what we'll do is we'll have a little bit of a session beforehand where we hash out what we're going to be talking about.
Yep.
Well, Peyton brought up a couple things, and I swear to God, I wanted to put my fist through the drywall.
I have never seen Jim like that upset before.
Oh, I was pissed off. And here's the thing, though. It wasn't necessarily about something political. I mean, it kind of was, because it touches on political correctness, and we all know how I feel it or how we feel
You know
about
what? Let's just jump into it.
All right.
Let's just jump into it. This is something that I discovered, that I read about, that really kind of got to me. Now, for those of you that have been with us since the beginning, you know that Jim and I are film aficionados, if you will. We're both writers, we're filmmakers, and we are working on strengthening our careers within the entertainment industry. So a lot of the topics that deal with controversy or problems dealing with film, it's a very hot button topic for us personally, because we're both artists who love movies, and we've loved movies since we were
childhood.
Yeah.
Very young.
Yeah. And so, you know, when things happen that, like, in a weird way defaces the sanctity of cinema, we're gonna fucking go bananas.
Yeah, and we did, and we will.
And we
so
will.
Buckle
so,
up.
This is from Entertainment Weekly, and this happened within the last couple weeks, actually. So, in Memphis, Tennessee, there is a famous theater called the Orpheum, and from what I can gather, they typically hold like a quote-unquote like festival, I guess, of movies that they run throughout the summer. And a lot of them are older movies, you know, movies like famous movies that have already come out from like, you know, 20, 30, 60 years ago.
Classics.
They're
They're running classics.
Exactly. So they decided for this summer that they wanted to have a screening of Gone with the Wind. So they did on August 11th of 2017. And this is where it gets depressing, because this is where I question just everything of who we are as Americans. They have decided to pull the film from the festival and never show it again because of comments from audience members calling the film insensitive.
Son of a bitch.
And racist. Granted, for those of you that have seen Gone with the Wind, it deals with a lot of controversial issues, dealing with racism and slavery and stuff.
Considering it takes place during the Civil War?
Yes.
yeah, it's going to be a
it
little...
takes place,
you know...
Yeah, during the Civil War and during the Reconstruction period.
Right.
You know, it's almost 4 hours long. So
Longer than the war.
Right. But the thing is, though, is that the film was such a landmark for its time. It's in the top 5 greatest American films of all time.
Number 4, actually.
Is it number 4?
Number 4 on the AFI.
It's behind what? Citizen Kane?
Behind Citizen Kane,
Godfather.
Casablanca, and The Godfather.
Okay, so it's number 4. It broke a shit ton of barriers dealing with racism. Even for its time, during 1930, I mean, civil rights movement hadn't even begun yet,
Nope.
and it was dealing with breaking down barriers. It
Yeah.
was crazy, the
Yeah.
subsequent
It-
effects of this movie.
It won a Best Supporting Actress award for an African-American.
Hattie McDaniels.
Hattie McDaniels.
Became the first African-American to ever win an Oscar.
Yep.
An Oscar.
In
1939. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Think about that. I want everybody out there to think about the timeline there. 1939. Like Peyton said, we weren't even discussing. It wasn't even in the stratosphere of discussing civil rights.
Nope.
So the very idea that this movie allowed an African American actress to win an extremely prestigious and coveted award in that timeline is unheard of.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Unheard of.
It was such a landmark. It's in the it is what is it? Let me look at the specs of it. Yeah, regarded as one of the greatest films of all time. It has definitely placed in the top 10 of the American Film Institute's list of top 100 American films, but of course it's number 4. And in 1989, it was inducted into the United States Library of Congress, selected for its preservation in the National Film Registry.
Because that's back when the country hadn't lost its collective mind.
We're
Yet.
getting there. We are so getting
God.
there. Now, granted, the subject material within this movie can be quite divisive. It does, like, in some ways, perpetuate a sympathetic view of the South.
It's a very romanticized version of the South.
Right,
You
right.
know.
Well, it's similar to Titanic in the way.
Right.
Like, you know, they give you this love story that takes place during the scope that affected hundreds, even thousands of people.
Yeah,
You know,
and they
during
do it
this-
in a
this
very
craziness, you know.
sort of Hollywood-esque glossy way. And so again, yeah, like you say, it can be a little bit divisive, but
Yeah.
that's just the nature of the time frame in which it takes place.
First off, this is in Tennessee, for God's sake. Like,
Right? Of all, I mean, you'd think that the whole crowd would be like,
Of
"Yeah,
all places. Like,
show it again." Like I'm on,
Right? Yeah.
You know,
I'll waste another 4 hours to watch this movie.
Right.
I got nothing.
I
My
love
my
watching
ranch
the
is
Bill
still
Cosby.
standing.
right?
It's fine.
What the hell? I don't care.
So it's crazy to me that so many people walked out of the screening going, you know, they're calling the film racist. When they canceled the screening, somebody had commented saying, slowly but surely, we will rid this community of all tributes to white supremacy.
Shut up. Just shut up. If you don't know what white supremacy really is, you don't get to fucking talk about it. Because I'm sorry, I've watched that movie several times. There is nothing in that movie that I go, yeah, that makes me want to
That makes me want to lynch people.
and burn crosses on front lawns. You know, no.
Seriously.
So to sit there with that sort of asinine comment, you've got to be a complete
yeah.
mouth breather.
And I'm pissed off that people would make such comments about it, but I would also say that the Orpheum is also to blame, because this is a theater. Their job is to show movies.
Yeah.
Their job is to preserve the sanctity of film on the silver screen.
Their job isn't
And
to
the
take a
fact-
political stance.
Exactly. And the fact that they're buckling under these fucknuts saying, oh, no, we're going to pull it because we don't want to offend
We don't
anyone.
offend people,
Well,
blah, blah.
frankly, Orpheum, I don't give a damn.
Well done.
See what I did
Well
there?
played, dude.
See what I did
well
there?
played. Everybody else is like,
It's-
what? I don't get it.
Yeah, watch the movie. You'll get it. It's
But it's
stupid.
offensive.
It's
I don't
so.
want to.
What's so funny to me is that people are like, you know, oh, Gone with the Wind. It's one of the most racist and white supremacist films of all time. Really? Okay. Then here's a challenge for you. Go to your local library, rent D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation.
Oh, God.
Then tell me Gone with the Wind is a
Oh,
racist.
yeah, all
fucking
your little safe space heads are gonna explode.
Please. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into.
yeah.
First
You-
off, The Birth of a Nation is a 3.5-hour silent movie, so most of you millennials won't even get
You won't
through
sit
10
through
minutes
yeah.
of it.
You won't sit through 3 minutes.
Just a little film history. D.W. Griffiths he's a filmmaker, and he is a known white nationalist, a known Southern sympathizer.
His father was a Confederate colonel, I believe, an officer
in
in
the Civil War?
Civil War.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie came out in, what, 1920?
I believe it was earlier than that. It might have been
1915?
14 or 15.
Yeah.
It was in the teens, I think.
Yeah, it's one of the first feature films.
Well, yeah, it was the first film that introduced editing as a device for storytelling in film.
Yeah.
So it was very, by itself, it was very groundbreaking.
Oh yeah.
For what it was.
Yeah, on a technical standpoint,
technical
like this
standpoint.
movie is actually pretty. Like the scope of it is really impressive
Yeah.
for its time. The subject material is it's called The Birth of a Nation, but really it's about the birth of the Ku Klux Klan. And I'm not even joking. There's
Yeah.
a whole
There's
series
a whole
of
scene.
scenes.
There's a scene that comes to mind is basically like about half a dozen Ku Klux Klan members riding into a town, like the
Yeah.
cavalry,
Yeah.
saving the poor people from the blacks. Which I'm like,
Yeah.
alright.
This is crazy to me. This is a fun, depressing fact. D.W. Griffiths, for all of the characters, the main characters who were black in that movie, they were blackfaced.
Yeah.
They were not black
They're not
actors. He
actual-
would
yeah.
not hire black actors or anybody black. I mean, he did hire blacks for like the background and stuff, but all of the main black characters were white actors in blackface. And not only that, but those characters were portrayed as rapists.
Yep. The ones going around raping all the poor white women in the town
Yep.
were the blackface actors.
Yep.
So if you
So
wanna,
don't tell
yeah,
me
no,
Gone with the Wind is a racist movie
Yeah,
because
bullshit.
you haven't done your fucking homework.
No. God damn. You wanna see-
Again, like, it's regarded as one of the greatest films of all time, and that's the point. It was such a controversial movie for its time as well. It's still considered
still
a
is.
controversial movie, but it's still considered one of the best because that's exactly what it is. When controversy hits you, it sparks a conversation.
Exactly. And what is that line that the Orpheum gave that just pissed me off? It was so counterintuitive to their mission statement. I just want to go in. I want to go into the office and smack them around
They
and
said
go.
a few things. They released a statement, and I quote, "As an organization whose stated mission is to entertain, educate, and enlighten the communities it serves, the Orpheum cannot show a film that is insensitive to a large segment of its local population." Well, then
Okay.
you're not exactly educating and enlightening your communities. Because
Exactly.
the point of the movie is to go, oh,
This was wrong.
we sucked.
Yep. Let's learn. Right.
Learn from
let's
your
learn from
history.
this. You know, I'm sorry, Orpheum, but if you guys are
Fuck.
trying to educate and enlighten, you failed.
You failed.
You
You
failed.
fucking failed. That's why I'm more angry with the Orpheum.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get it. If people are going to complain about a movie, fine. They're going to do it.
I get it. Right now, it's popular to say everything is racist. You know, leaving a fart in an elevator is probably racist somehow. But, you know...
Probably.
So I get that. I get that it's popular to say that every damn thing is racist. Whatever. But for the Orpheum to sit there and go, well, as an organization that prides ourselves on enlightening and educating,
no.
we're going to shut this movie. That's called suppression, my
That
friends.
is. Absolutely.
I believe the Nazis were guilty of that back
Yep.
in the 30s. Thanks for perpetuating that history. Oh, but you wouldn't know because you probably fucking got rid of that history lesson.
That's what's so frustrating to me about the whole issue is that, granted, a lot of these statements, we don't know their political affiliations.
I don't care about their political affiliation.
Well, yeah, but
What
I don't
does
either.
bother-
But
what
it's
does
so
bother
funny
me-
to me that we have like this weird clash of like political correctness with fascism, and yet both of them aren't supposed to exist together, right?
No, yeah, well, not only that, and this touches back on the
That's
whole
why it doesn't make any
right.
sense.
It's an anomaly. It's a paradox, and that's what gets me with people like Antifa and organizations like that, where they're all about supposed anti-fascism, standing up for freedom, blah blah blah. But these are the same fucknuts that are going to walk into that Orpheum and go, "Well, this movie's offensive. I don't like it. Blah blah blah. We need to shut it down." Well, you just did what fascists did about 85 years ago, you assholes. I
Yeah.
don't know, really
This is-
learn your
this-
history.
Yeah, it's just, it really is depressing that
Every
one of
time we turn around,
Yeah.
something like this is happening. And now it's hitting film. And we're really, again, we're really protective of our cinema.
Well, think about it. A lot of like not even people from the right, but a lot of people from the left too are oddly attacking the entertainment industry. We're somehow losing. I don't think we're losing our free speech, but I mean,
we're getting there.
we're getting there. But think
definitely
about it.
getting there.
Like after the whole debacle with the Seth Rogen James Franco movie, The Interview, about the fictional
so
assassination.
ridiculous. Just that we
Kim Jong-un.
cared.
We
what Kim
cared that
Jong-il
much. Are you
really?
serious?
Are we really caring what some crackpot dictator in a third world country is going to think about our comedy movie? That we're so shit scared that we're refusing to release the movie,
Yeah.
or at least we're delaying it. When we're sitting here wringing our hands, going, "Oh, I don't know if we should release it. It might offend him." Really?
It's wrong. It is wrong. It is so wrong.
What are you?
to
What?
stifle that kind of
Yeah.
crap? I mean, it's
God,
just.
what piece of anatomy are you using in the place of brains to figure this shit out?
It's also kind of depressing because I wish that this story was a lot bigger than it is.
It needs
you
to be
know.
huge.
It needs to be huge. Like I feel like there needs to be a much bigger outcry.
Because this isn't the end of it. That's the problem. This is not the end. This is just the opening salvo.
Yeah.
This is a warning shot before the actual battle happens, and it ain't going to be pretty, because I guarantee you we're going to see more of this shit. We're going to see more speech, more movies, more symbols of expression getting shut down and suppressed because somebody, some fucknut with an axe to grind, is offended.
You know what's funny too? I guarantee you that most of these people that called Gone with the Wind insensitive and offensive in its message, I guarantee you these people went home that night and watched Game of Thrones.
Oh, for sure.
I guarantee you.
Yeah, they're the same
Now,
people that won't miss a
granted-
damn episode.
Granted, as a fan of Game of Thrones, you know,
I'm not bashing it. Don't get me wrong. I'm
Right.
just saying it's a bit hypocritical to go.
is. Oh, it
this
absolutely
is offensive,
is.
and then go watch a complete sex scene with gore in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Which is funny because a lot of the sex scenes in Game of Thrones really aren't. I mean,
not that bad.
some of
Yeah.
them are kind of like it's like
it's the-
borderline softcore porn.
Right.
But the thing about it is, after watching the show, I'm finally caught up, and I cannot wait for the season finale tonight, dude. It's gonna be so crazy epic. Not that that's like a plug, but it kind of is.
It always is. We're always plugging movies and TV shows on this show.
But yeah, as someone who's a fan of the show, I've heard a lot of people say, I'm so sick and tired of seeing all the sex and seeing all the nudity and seeing all the gratuitous smut within it. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Then either A, don't watch it, or B, accept the fact that in this show, every character is about 90% likely to die. And because of that, a lot of them have this mindset. It's a very Anglo-Saxon paganistic mindset where they know they're going to die from war or battle or from assassin, whatever.
any time.
At any time.
So
Literally,
why not-
it could be their last day,
Right.
their last hour.
Why
so
not
they're like,
live it up?
Live it up. Drink all the wine. Fuck
eat,
all the women.
drink and be
you know.
merry. That type of thing.
Exactly. It's you have to look at it from the standpoint of the world. You have to get lost in the universe in order to accept these things.
And that's what I
as
think.
part of
That's
the
what I
universe.
think. Some of these viewers, whether it's Game of Thrones, whether it's Gone with the Wind, whatever, some of these viewers aren't doing that. They're not putting themselves in the shoes of the character. They're just going, "Oh my God, somebody was showing a butt cheek. I don't like." Whatever.
Clark Gable offended me.
He's
dead.
Yeah. Well, how about you actually put yourself in the movie or the show or whatever it is? Why don't you do that for a change? Leave your soapbox bullshit at home and just enjoy it for what it is, and maybe
relax.
take exactly.
You can
relax,
learn something
Learn
from
something
it.
from it.
Because clearly, this movie, for the last 80 years that it's been out now,
At least
almost 80 years.
Almost 40.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
movie's almost 80
Almost 80
years
years
old,
old.
like in a couple of years.
Yep.
We can all learn something from it. And the fact that the movie is still considered controversial to this day, that means
It
something.
does.
It's saying something.
It
and
sh-
it's
it
saying
says-
something that we apparently still haven't fucking learned.
God. Look, there's a number of shows and movies that existed 30 years ago that couldn't be made today.
Yep.
You would never see Gone with the Wind. You would never see All in the Family. You would never see half of the cartoons we watched as kids because, oh my God, somebody somewhere, again, with a political correct axe to grind, would say something about it, and some network or some production office, instead of manning up and growing a pair, would buckle and go, "You're right, we're so sorry, don't hit us." Like they would, are you kidding?
But it's interesting that this comes at a time when, racial divide is at a really weird high in our nation right now. Do you think something like this could have happened 10, 15, 20 years ago?
No, it
don't
wouldn't.
think so?
It wouldn't have happened 10, 15, 20 years ago because, again, like I said, right now it's in vogue to find racism anywhere. It's like finding Jesus in your tortilla. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, there's racism in my cup. It's like, oh, my coffee's there's white foam on the top. The white foam is on top of the dark coffee. So obviously, it's suppressing the. See what I'm saying? It sounds stupid, but this is the kind of mentality that we're allowing ourselves to kind of fall into right now, where we see racism and bigotry every single place we turn.
Yep.
Well, do we really? Or are we just grasping at straws?
It's weirdly trying to erase history.
Yeah, and I'm
It's trying
I've had
to erase
enough.
the history
I've
that
had
it's
enough.
real. I mean, movies like Gone with the Wind, whose message is supposed to be uplifting. It's supposed to be reconstructive. It's supposed to
leave you with hope.
Conversation. And then movies like Birth of a Nation that show a darker side, show a side
of history that's not something we're proud of. But that being said, both of those movies serve to teach you something and to get a dialogue going. How in God's earth are you supposed to create a dialogue and learn from this when you're suppressing these movies?
Yeah.
How can you expect to learn anything when you're suppressing this art because you're or somebody else doesn't like it? That's not how this game is supposed to work.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So to wrap this up, I kind of have a joke, and I literally am making this up like on the fly.
God, we hope it's good then.
I think so.
All right.
I think
let me
it's
have
good.
it. Just let me have
Okay,
it.
so
If anybody's walking into a bar, I'm cutting your mic off.
No one's walking into a bar.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, what is the chant? These people that are suppressing movies because of racial problems or whatever. What do you think it is that they chant?
I don't know.
Miss Scarlet, I know nothing about birth and no nation. That was so bad.
That was
so bad.
That was bad. Send your letters to.
But kind of clever.
It was clever.
I know nothing about birth
I
and
don't
no
know.
nation.
Well, they don't, and that's the problem. You guys know nothing.
That was a bad joke.
It was a bad joke.
I understand if you
but
people stop listening right now. That was bad even for me. Like,
we're sorry. But with that in mind,
just watch.
Just
watch
the
the movie.
Keep an open mind.
Keep an open mind.
Anything, with art, with anything like that.
Watch them both. I seriously
watch them
both
back to
of
back.
them.
Well, they're both long, so take your pick.
Yeah.
Watch them both. It doesn't matter what order you watch them in, but watch them both and honestly create a dialogue with somebody. Find someone who's open and minded enough as you are to create a dialogue that you both can learn something from. Don't shy away from it. Yes, there's going to be images and there's going to be issues in it that you're going to find that are going to be a little hard to swallow.
It's going to make you feel uncomfortable.
Exactly.
That's
but
the point.
That's the point.
You're supposed to feel uncomfortable because it means that something inside of you is shifting. That is a good thing.
That's
Accept
what we want.
it.
As Americans and as humans, that's what we want.
Yep.
Now, what we don't want is our politic of the week.
What we don't want?
What we don't want.
I need a break after that one.
We are going to take a break.
We got on fire on that one. Yeah.
I need a
breather.
But when we come back, we're going to discuss.
Discuss.
We're going to discuss more. Great. I'm turning into Trump.
It's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be the greatest politic ever.
So we're going to come back with the politic of the week, and it's going to get you fired up.
Hell yeah.
Stick around, folks, because we got a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's time for Politic of the Week, the part of our show where we introduce to you a political or social figure who has been particularly stupid in the eyes of the nation. Hold tight, for there's no telling what amount of bullshittery we may encounter next. Boy, do we have some bullshittery for you guys. God.
I only know nothing of this.
I swear, dude, every time I turn around and I go, oh, I'm not going to have a politic for this week. I'm not going to be able to do it. Every time that happens, I turn around and I find somebody.
That's always how it is.
Oh, God. They never disappoint. So,
for all you listeners out there that aren't Americans, just know that Americans never disappoint.
We never disappoint to disappoint.
Mm-hmm. All right, so what do you got for us, Jim?
This week, on the dumb shitto scale, we have the wonderful executives at ESPN.
Wow, all right.
Including ESPN executive president John Skipper, who for this segment I will call Skippy, because that's what he is, in my opinion.
All right.
ESPN, that paragon of unbiased media, I said sarcastically, in their limited...
Glad the audience saw your asterisk there.
Just in case anybody's like, yeah, he's right.
Yeah, I think he might have put quotes on that.
I think there might have been quotes in there. I don't know. There were. In their limited collective intelligence, and it's limited, recently pulled an Asian American commentator from announcing a University of Virginia football game over his name. You want to take a stab at what his name was there, Peyton? I bet you won't get it. But when you do get it...
Wait a minute. Hold on. So they pulled a commentator. Is that what she's saying?
Yeah, they pulled a commentator who was commentating a University of Virginia football game over his name. And when you hear his name...
Are you fucking
You'll
kidding
understand
me?
why. You'll understand. You'll get it. I know
No.
you probably already get it right now.
I have a good idea of what it is.
This poor unfortunate soul's name.
There's like a 90% chance of him being named Lee.
Yep. Mr.
My
Robert
God.
Lee.
Oh my God! Are you
Mr.
kidding
No,
me?
not kidding.
Are you fucking kidding
I
me?
can't make this shit up if I tried, dude. Are you kidding?
What happened to this last week?
Everybody lost their collective
Holy
minds, dude.
hell.
That's what happened. So anyway, he was. I got more of it right here, actually.
That makes it worse that he's Asian American.
Lee is
that
an Asian American
honestly-
sportscaster he started with the network back in 2016. He was moved to a different game, quote, simply because of the coincidence of his name. This is what ESPN said.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it was. Here, let me read you the network's full statement because, again, just like with the Orpheum, I wanted to drop kick somebody so bad.
This is so funny and stupid.
So fucking stupid.
The
Anyway,
fact that this is
this is
news.
actually happening in our country. The fact that we actually are sitting here right now talking about this shit. Like this
And
is
yet I feel so bad for this Robert Lee.
I
guy.
do.
He
He
has
has my sympathy.
You have my condolences.
my
sir.
condolences
This
and my
sucks.
apologies on behalf of
This
Americans
sucks.
everywhere.
All right. Let's,
Anyway.
All right. Let's hear it.
So the network's full collective statement, because apparently they needed to all come together to make a statement, because one person couldn't think individually.
It's ESPN. It's a team sport, Jim. Come on.
Team sport. It's a team fuck up is what it is. But
Yeah.
anyway, quote, because again, I can't make this shit up. Quote, we collectively made the decision with Robert to switch games as the tragic events in Charlottesville were unfolding, simply because of the coincidence of his name. In that moment, we felt right to all parties. It's a shame that this is even a topic of conversation. And,
You're right, it is!
And we regret that who calls play-by-play for a football game has become an issue. Unquote. Well, you're right, ESPN.
hard not to laugh.
It's a shame that this is even a topic of conversation and that we're wasting our listeners' time talking about how you screwed the proverbial pooch by pulling an Asian American over his fucking name.
Oh man.
Yeah, it is an unfortunate event. Okay, ESPN used an unfortunate. Look, this is my opinion.
I can't. I
This
have
is
to
my
stop
opinion,
laughing.
and then
this is not funny.
It's not,
but it's
it's
hilarious
tragic.
too.
It's so tragic. But let me just give you my 2 cents, and then we can go back to just how stupid. Okay, ESPN used a tumultuous, unfortunate event in our nation to further their own leftist agenda. Cashing in on the national hysteria, they effectively politicized a man's name and penalized him for sharing the name of a long-dead Confederate general, along with, because I did my research, because this is so fucking stupid, I had to bring up research on this, I needed to bring up numbers, along with nearly 11,000 other men in the United States who have the name Robert Lee.
11,000?
Yep.
Damn.
Apparently, names are now racist.
Well, obviously. Yet I don't think they realize how inadvertently racist they did
Yeah,
because
that's okay. First off, he's an Asian American.
that's the reason why.
He's an Asian American.
Like you're not helping your cause by saying
Yeah.
we're trying to stop racism.
Now,
You-
granted, if he was a white dude, you'd still be stupid.
Well, but that's the question. If it was, I beg the question. If it was a white dude, would they have done the same thing?
Yes.
You think so?
Absolutely, they would. They wouldn't have even put him on the game to begin with. I guarantee you, they wouldn't have even done it because they would have gone, "Oh, he's white and his name is Robert Lee. There's no way. We're not letting him get anywhere within a 5-mile radius of the game in Virginia."
This is wild, dude. This
Oh,
literally is.
Oh my God,
crazy.
It's insane. I was reading this article.
You're right. We're putting the blame on somebody who literally had 0% choice.
With his, he had no choice in his name. Sure, you could argue that, well, yeah, Robert Lee could have changed his name at some point during his lifetime, in the off chance that some lunatic organization like ESPN might penalize him and pull him over his name. Sure, he might have thought about that in the future. Hey, my name might become a racist taboo. I might need to change that. Again, do you see how ridiculous it sounds out loud?
No, it is. This is wild.
God,
like,
I've never done so much shouting as I am doing right on this episode because people are so
I don't know what
stupid.
happened, but the morons came out of the woodwork this week.
Yeah, they did.
Did this Robert guy make a stink about it? I'm assuming
No.
he didn't.
No.
Okay, so then I guess what I'm assuming then is that ESPN realized, probably what we're doing is wrong. I bet you
I don't know,
anything.
my notes are all over the floor because
He threw his notes
so I gotta
in a
get
fury.
them. So hang tight.
I'm curious about something. The question that I would be asking is that did they compensate him for this incident?
Well, they put him on a different assignment. It wasn't like they pulled him and sent him home and like.
So it wasn't like they fired him.
They didn't fire him.
It was just because of a Virginia college game.
Right. They just put him on a different. I forgot what exactly. But the problem is,
Like,
look.
I don't even think a novelist could come up
No.
with something that
No.
clever and
No.
that bizarre.
But here's the thing. Look, ESPN president John Skipper, or Skippy,
Skippy.
has spent 8 years working for Rolling Stone before he became an ESPN head.
Okay.
And we all know that Rolling Stone is not exactly a middle ground organization. They're very leftist. So I'd imagine that good old Skippy, when he came over to ESPN, had his own agenda, or at least he was very much in the mindset of the far left freakout, which is what happened with Robert Lee. If there's anyone sane left at Disney, ESPN's corporate owners, I swear this Robert Lee fiasco needs to be the wake-up call to shift the network back to sports, because right now all they're doing they're making a mockery out of everything.
I used to work for Disney, and I say used to, so I'm not afraid to throw them under the bus because they fucking deserve it. Disney is very well known for following the trends. The problem is that a lot of times in this nation, societal trends end up clashing, like we saw with the whole idea of political correctness and fascism clashing with the whole Gone with the Wind situation at the Orpheum Theater.
Yep.
We're seeing situations like that in this nation where there's just a clash of social trends. And the problem is that Disney is walking a razor-thin line between what is appropriate and what is...
Sane?
I don't know, but that's the problem, is that they really don't have any hard stances. Like, if you really, if you watch Bob Iger, he has no hard stances.
He very much kind of goes with the, pardon the term, he kind of just goes with the wind.
At least Michael Eisner,
he had a stance. He's like,
he had his moments where he was like, oh, no, this is a thing. Like, he was, not great.
Right. I mean, he definitely spent Disney
Right,
into a hole,
but Bob Iger is, for lack of a better term, kind of a pussy. He really is. As a CEO, he's a total meek guy. So there's no hard stances in Disney. They have hard stances when it comes to their employees, but that's a whole nother episode.
Right?
I could literally, out of the 5 years I spent with that company, we could spend like a series of 10 episodes.
Disney is already drafting up their cease and desist order for Payton right now. They're like, that mother...
That's
again!
fine.
Again!
That's fine. I have had...
let's put it this way. Listeners, Payton became such a controversial force in his department that he is now a verb in the department.
The listeners out here that have been a part of it, we have talked very much about my alter ego, Warpath Payton. That name was given to me by Disney employees.
Yep.
That name was birthed because of my time with the Disney company, but it's all warranted. I would say most of it's warranted. Some of it I was definitely just being a punk ass.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
But they deserved it. But see, that's the thing. Disney rarely has very hard stances on certain issues, which is why, again, it makes sense that they would be all kind of with this ESPN thing, and why they would make such a big deal about it.
And it's just so infuriating because, look, if you're going to be a corporation, take a stance.
Yeah.
Have a, whether it's one side or the other, have a stance and stick to it.
Yeah.
And another thing, I wouldn't have such an issue. Well, I still would have an issue, but I wouldn't be so fired up about this whole thing if this was just an isolated incident. If this was one nut job CEO making a dumbass ruling because he's just an idiot or he's a far left nut job, whatever. Luckily, they're not multiplying yet. But the fact that this is not an isolated incident, whether it's Robert Lee, whether it's the Orpheum Theater not showing Gone with the Wind, this is not the first time, and this is not the last time we're going to hear about this shit.
We're trying so hard not to offend people with anything. The problem is that
if you do that, you start suppressing everybody.
Exactly. Louis C.K. said it best, actually. Famous comedian Louis C.K. basically had made a comment at some point, I forget where, but he's essentially I'm paraphrasing, but he's essentially quoted saying, it is necessary to offend people.
Yes.
Because once you offend somebody, you start a debate.
Exactly.
When you start a debate, you start a conversation. When you start a conversation, you start coming together.
Yep. Exactly.
And that's the point of it. Now, obviously, there are people that like to be offensive for the sake of being
just
assholes.
being assholes, and that's different.
And that's different.
That's a different
but
story.
clearly, there is plenty of us out there who like to play the devil's advocate for the sake of trying to expand people's minds and understandings.
AKA this show.
Exactly. And that's something that Jim and I fight for a lot with this show. We're trying to come at this from a multitude of sides to really try to understand topics that we bring to the table. And I think that this is a good one. I think that I cannot get over the astronomical odds that right after Charlottesville, Virginia, literally they're gonna pull somebody from a Virginia college game to on as a commentator because his name is Robert Lee.
We've gone from tearing down statues of Robert Lee to removing people named Robert Lee.
I just my brain cannot compute. Again, the astronomical odds of that happening.
It's like trying to calculate infinity is how much it hurts.
Seriously.
And
what I find the most interesting is that it seems like there hasn't been a lot of, like you said, Robert Lee really hasn't really come out making a statement.
He was actually, from what I heard, from what I read, he was actually relatively...
He understood.
He understood.
He understood.
He might
It's
not have
still
liked
bullshit.
it, but he understood it, and he kind of rolled with it. And to his credit, he was very gracious about it. I wouldn't have been. I probably would have got my lawyers involved.
I probably would have like, are you serious?
No.
Are you serious right now?
So
I'd have laughed in their faces.
Oh,
and
dude,
been
straight
like,
up.
This
Like,
is
get out of my
ridiculous.
recording booth. You're an idiot.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
So that
I literally just found out
Yeah.
about this.
So for that reason, ESPN executives, especially good old President John Skippy Skipper, gets Paula Dick of the week. And in fact, if this shit keeps up, you guys might get Paula Dick of the century. I don't know. You guys are closing really fast on the golden raspberry.
There are incidents out there dealing with this topic of discussion that, yes, it could be insensitive, could be an issue. I understand. This is just weird.
This is weird.
This is in no way does it teeter on a fine line of being insensitive.
No.
This is just bizarre.
Stupid.
Beyond.
Look, again, I understand the legitimate cases of racism and bigotry
Yeah.
and symbolisms that might lead to that. I get that. But when you're pulling a dude over his name because he shares it with a long dead Confederate general, you're an idiot. I mean, I'm sorry, but you're an idiot. If that's your next move to combat quote-unquote bigotry, then you know what? You're just not using your brain.
So weird to me. I'm kind of surprised the Asian community didn't rise up.
I
more
know.
about it.
I would be... maybe it's to their credit. Maybe they're like, you know what? We get this all the time.
There's 9 million
9 million leaves. This
We get
is
it.
like Smith for the Asians. We don't care. It's all right.
It's true. Isn't that
You know?
weird to think about? That
Yeah.
every culture has a commonality.
Yep.
You know,
Every-
with a lot of Asians, you know, it's either Lee or Chang. You know, with whites, it's like Smith. With
Jones, with
Jones.
with Hispanics, it's Lopez. There's a lot of Lopez.
Yeah, a lot of Lopez's. Yeah, it's so it's so funny to me.
So I'm sure they're probably just writing this out because it's like, you know what, this is not a thing. We get this. We understand.
Honestly, it
Whatever.
actually is more offensive because I feel like they're continuing to perpetuate the harsh reality of what happened in Charlottesville.
Well,
I
they
feel
definitely
like
are.
They're trying to keep it alive for the sake
stoking
of
the
ratings.
flame. Exactly. That's what I think it comes down to, and that's why, like I was saying, they just need to go back to sports. They need to stop being
Yeah.
about spectacle. This is not about, this is not a very corporate thing to say, but it's not about ratings. This is about offending somebody's sensibility.
Exactly.
And offending your audience's intelligence. This is ridiculous. Again, the fact that we're talking about this right now is, it's astronomically insane.
You know what? Yeah, I agree. They definitely get Paula Dick of the week.
Yeah.
I'm okay with
And-
that.
and I'll be
That's
honest, I-
just crazy.
I even kind of held back for a little bit. I'm like, because I found these guys pretty early in the week. Because normally how we organize the show is once we air the show, the next day we start looking for material for our next show.
Yep.
And literally the next day, this headline pops up on my feed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is too good. But I'm thinking, should I use this? Should I hold off? I'm sure Trump or somebody is going to say something I can use.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody did. So ESPN, you won.
You won.
You won.
You won.
You don't be proud about that because you are the problem.
Yep. Absolutely.
You are not the solution to the problem. You are the problem.
Goodbye. Speaking of good old Trump, this is a good segue into our headliner for the week.
Headliner
as
of
it
the week.
deals as it deals specifically with him, which is bizarre because I don't know if we've actually had him as like our main headliner.
Like he does normally. He pops his head up every now and then, and we have to like address that when it happens.
It's like a weird mole.
It's like a weird game of whack-a-mole. But get down there, Trump. But we've never actually had him as a headline or anything that he's done directly that's been a headliner.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a little bit interesting. I'm prefacing it with this. This will be heated because I have my own opinion on this, and of course it does lean a little more. It leans a little more in the opposite direction than I think Payton's does. So
well,
it does and it doesn't.
The thing that I would like to preface though with this story, with this headliner, is that it seems like in doing our research, it still seems like there's a lot of conjecture and speculation
it's all
on the
conjecture
issue.
and speculation.
And that's the problem with it, is that people have so many people with very hard stances on this issue, and yet everything is sort of this or there's no real hard evidence.
Right, and what's
per
driving
se.
me crazy about that is people are making snap judgments and decisions, and some of them are long-lasting legal decisions based on conjecture. Right. I'm like, you don't. That's not how you run your ship,
And that's
dude.
the problem, is that I would like to make snap judgments because a lot of what happened, because of who this guy is, I would definitely like to. A lot of stuff that this man is accused of.
If in fact it's true, but again, half of this stuff I think is made up or exaggerated, and the other half can't be substantiated.
We'll never know until we did.
So.
And even then we might not know.
I hope never to know.
Okay, so our headliner is essentially this. For our listeners out there, something happened this last week.
Something happened at the... Oh, sorry.
Okay, so there is a very famous county sheriff from Maricopa County, Arizona. A man by the name of Joe, is it Arpaio?
Arpaio.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Okay, Joe Arpaio.
I had to look it up too, but yeah.
He's a very famous county sheriff from Arizona. Served from, it looks like, 1993 until 2017. Which is really kind of bizarre to me if you think about it, because the guy's 85 years old and he became county sheriff at the age of like 60.
Yeah. Which
So-
isn't unusual to be elected at that age. It's really unusual
Right,
to
it's
last
just-
that long.
Right, to last that long. I mean, he was voted out at the age of 84.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Which we'll touch on the reason
I
why.
feel like he should have been out 20 years ago.
Well,
you know?
again,
he should
he
have
kept
retired.
getting reelected. Everybody loved what he did so much and loved the fact that the crime rate was ridiculously low in his county that they kept reelecting him to the
That's
seat.
just crazy.
So, I mean, I get it,
All right.
but it's like wild.
Well, essentially, this man, during the bulk of his career, he was essentially given the title America's Toughest Sheriff.
And he was.
To a fault, I would say. Starting in 2005, he took an outspoken stance against illegal immigration, and in 2010, he became a flashpoint for opposition to Arizona's SB 1070 anti-illegal immigration law, which was largely struck down by the United States Supreme Court. But this is probably something he's the most famous and well known for, is he's known for his militant investigation of former President Barack Obama's birth certificate. He was one of the guys that spearheaded that investigation.
Which explains why Obama did what he did to the guy. At the
I don't
end
even
of
know
his
what he
tenure.
did. What he
Okay, but I was going to save this, but now that we segued so nicely, Arpaio's case has been politically motivated from the beginning. This is kind of my opinion. This is kind of what the one side of the story will tell you. It's been politically motivated because when the Obama administration's Department of Justice filed misdemeanor charges against the sheriff,
Right. This is what happened like a couple weeks ago, right?
no, this was before.
Oh, this was during
This was
Obama's
during
tenure.
Obama's tenure.
Okay.
They filed misdemeanor charges against him a mere 2 weeks before Arpaio's re-election, resulting in him losing his re-election bid. So I feel like it was kind of personal on
Interesting.
Obama's side, kind of like, oh yeah, you're jacking around with my birth certificate issue. Well, take this, buddy. Like I just feel like it was a little bit.
It's a little personal. Well, it's a lot personal,
It's a
and
lot.
it's a little petty.
It's a lot.
But I don't know. I kind of don't blame Obama. When someone's going after your namesake, think about it. Like, how would you feel if, somebody came after you and said your birth certificate is forged? You're actually from Bosnia.
I'd go, how do you get Bosnia, number one?
That's the first country that came to
number
my head. I
two,
don't know.
I'd actually present a legit birth certificate that, I actually had.
Right, and Obama did. Everybody keeps saying that it was forged. Everybody keeps saying it was false. It's real,
There's-
you guys. They
there's-
debunked that years ago. He's a
Well,
he's a citizen.
I would have brought it out a lot sooner than what he did.
Granted, the same could be said for the whole campaign of trying to get Trump's tax returns. Technically, he's not legally bound.
He's not obligated to do that.
He's technically not legally bound to release them.
Nope.
As far as my knowledge is like that.
You were correct, sir.
But I feel like, both Obama with his birth certificate and then Trump with his tax records, I'm pretty sure in their minds, both of them were going, really? This is what we're going to freak out about?
Well, that's why even after a while, even I dropped the birth certificate thing, because I'm like, you know what, this is not, first off, it's not going anywhere.
It's not going
and it's
exactly.
wasting time.
Exactly.
In any case, I feel like with the thing with Sheriff Arpaio, it was a bit personal on Obama's behalf, so I kind of chalk that up to Obama just being petty on his way out the door.
So going back to Arpaio, essentially over the course of his career as county sheriff, he's been accused of various types of police misconduct. Now again, accused, but none of these things, as far as my knowledge is concerned, exactly. He was accused, but nothing held up in court. There was no suits filed.
No.
But to give you kind of the laundry list of things he was accused of, it was abuse of power, misuse of funds, failure to investigate sex crimes, improper clearance of cases, unlawful enforcement of immigration laws, and election law violations. I'm assuming that's all of it, but
There's more?
I don't know. There's always more.
I mean,
Are you kidding me?
Now again, half of this or most of this could be complete bullshit.
Yeah.
It could be complete nonsense made up by his enemies and detractors because they don't like the guy. We don't know for sure. Some of it might be factual or rooted in truth. I don't know.
Right.
But from what I've researched, a good portion of these allegations are just crap.
According to this, a federal court monitor was appointed to oversee his office's operations because of complaints of racial profiling. But the U.S. Department of Justice concluded that Arpaio oversaw the worst pattern of racial profiling in U.S. history and subsequently filed suit against him for unlawful discriminatory police conduct.
Which is weird because under Arpaio's command, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office boasted the highest percentage of Hispanic deputies, detention officers, and staff in the state of Arizona. And moreover, he promoted more Hispanic officers to command positions than any other law enforcement agency in the state. So if he's doing all this in his own department, why?
But is that coming straight from his department, or is that coming from an outside source?
Well, the source on my page is an outside source, but he's not clarifying whether it is in fact coming from the sheriff's department or.
See, they need to clarify that, because if that's coming from his office, I would question that, because obviously, you were like,
if somebody comes in here and goes, "Hey, is Star Spangled Banter the best damn podcast that anyone's ever heard?" Well, yeah, I'm gonna pad that and spice it up and be like, yeah.
But see, that's the thing. I mean, Bob Iger is not gonna come to Disney press release and go, "DreamWorks won." Like, he's not going to do that. He's going to promote his own product. So clearly, his quote-unquote product is his own office and his and the sheriff county office.
So it can be a little skewed, I get that. But my point is, there's all these allegations of racism and racist misconduct and this, that, and the other. And I'm going, okay, if he was in fact actually as racist as everyone says he is, and if he was in fact actually doing all of this misconduct, now granted, maybe he was doing things that were a little in the gray area, but if he was doing all of these racist things that he's being accused of doing, why the hell would he award Latinos in his own department? Why? If I'm racist, I'm not going to be a selective racist. I'm going to hate everybody equally. Like, well, I don't understand. So again,
you got me on that one. You got me on that one. I mean, I think that's a good point to come back to. I'm going to pose a question that our listeners may or may not like, but I think it's something that is necessary to speak on. I'm going to come back to that because I'm going to talk about what Trump did with this whole Arpaio issue. So over the course of his career, he was subject to several federal civil rights lawsuits. In one case, he was a defendant in a decade-long suit in which a federal court issued an injunction barring him from conducting further immigration roundups. Essentially, when it dealt with illegal immigration, Arpaio was very well known for being extremely militant and harsh with immigration laws. Now, of course, Jim and I have spoken on many occasions about how the immigration laws of this country suck.
They suck.
They are awful.
They need to be changed.
Yeah.
Without
they're
argument.
Awful.
They need to be changed.
So... And the problem is that in a weird way, he's like going about this in a very vigilante way of like doing what, some of the stuff that he did and how he did it.
I've always had my own opinion on that. I've always felt that
again, we've agreed that illegal immigration is not okay.
It's in the name.
Right.
Illegal.
Right, but we also realize that the system itself
Isn't helping matters.
like seriously,
you're
you
kinda-
would
you're
get
kinda-
you would decrease the level of illegal immigration if you just made it easier for these people to get in here.
What a crazy idea.
Shit! Like, the logic just doesn't make sense to me. Stupid. So, anyway, so continuing on with this Arpaio guy, federal courts subsequently found that after the order was issued, Arpaio's office continued to detain persons for further investigation without reasonable suspicion that a crime has been or is being committed. There's clearly a lot of stuff that he's doing that is not, quote-unquote, by the book, with a lot of issues. Because of that, in July of 2017, he was convicted of misdemeanor contempt of court. Essentially, the judge was just not happy with how anything was happening
Well,
with all of this shit, and he was like, I'm holding you in contempt, which
it was Judge Susan Bolton.
which apparently, though, he was in contempt of court outside of court, right?
I don't know. Well, it's possible. I don't know the specifics if he was in contempt outside of court.
Okay.
I think it was more of. I think what you're trying to say is it was more of what he did on the job versus what he did or said in the physical courtroom.
Right.
Yeah. In that sense, yes. It was more of the fact that they said, "Hey, stop it."
Yeah.
And he didn't.
And he didn't.
And he didn't.
He was like, fuck you, I've been doing this for how many years now? I'm going to keep doing
I
it.
don't know.
So
Now, what I don't like is the idea that when they finally did get to court, they didn't give him a jury trial. It was just basically him in the principal's office, standing in front of the judge, and she slapped his wrist, and, didn't slap his wrist, she,
held
held
him
him
in
in contempt. But under the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, especially people in the sheriff's position, you're granted and guaranteed a jury trial. So the very fact that she didn't do that
yeah.
nullifies her verdict.
I mean, obviously the judicial system has proven
It's proven a bit.
quite effective,
Yeah.
to say the
As
least.
effective as a screen door in a submarine. I mean...
So I can understand it. I think that's the difference. I think that if a lot of these investigations and a lot of these different lawsuits that had taken place, if they were followed by a proper court in front of a jury of his peers, I think it would have been okay. Essentially what had happened is that he was held in contempt, he was found guilty of being in contempt or whatever, and 2 days ago, President Trump, this is where he gets involved, gave him a full presidential pardon from everything that he has done. And the world went crazy.
The world,
Or the country went crazy, at least.
Which, again, is so stupid to me because there's so many other things that we should be getting our panties in a twist over versus somebody getting pardoned for... now, again, whether or not he committed all these atrocities that the people say he does, it doesn't matter because to me it looks like labeling him racist for trying to enforce U.S. immigration law, it's a tired, exhausted left-wing trick that just, I swear, it just keeps getting old. It never works.
It's just, what's difficult is that we don't know. Now, granted, he has definitely said and done some things that you would go, yeah, you might be a bit racist.
You might be a racist.
you might be racist if Jeff Foxworthy tells you are.
Yeah. That's a red flag.
But that's the thing. Something like this. In a separate racial profiling case, which concluded in 2013, Arpaio and his subordinates were found to have unfairly targeted Hispanics in conducting travel.
But how so? What was the evidence? What was the Exhibit A, Exhibit B? What did they bring? What did they go?
Don't know. Maybe
was it hey, you arrested somebody named Fernandez, or was it hey, you arrested somebody named Fernandez who was an illegal alien?
I don't know. You got me.
Because there's a night and day difference.
That's what makes this such a weird gray area. Now, granted, we may not have all the facts. We've looked up various different sources on this whole thing.
Yeah, and they haven't really.
And this whole thing, just again, it still seems very
because I think other people don't
me.
have their facts. I think it is. I think it's a gray area. But because of that, I kind of agree with what Trump did. Because look, if you're a court, if you're the actual court, meaning a judicial court, if you're a judge and you have a case and you don't have solid evidence or sources, and there's a shadow of reasonable doubt that this man may or may not be innocent, and you can't come to an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
you cannot, by virtue of the law itself, convict the man. And because of that, that's why I believe that Trump did the right thing in pardoning him. Because we don't know 100% for a fact if he had in fact committed all these horrible acts and was as racist as everybody says he is, or if this was just, again, another left-wing political ploy to get somebody who was hurting poor illegal immigrants. I mean, we don't really know.
Well, now here's a question then that I would pose in regards to the Trump pardon, which is if in fact Arpaio was judged in a court by a jury of his peers, if they did follow judicial protocol, as such it is by the Sixth Amendment. I almost said commandment.
Oh boy.
Well, if he did kill somebody,
I mean, then I'd be like, I can't help you.
No, you're fucked.
Yeah, you're done, dude.
But if in fact, like, they did follow protocol by the book with all of that stuff, and he was found guilty, would Trump have still given him a pardon?
I would hope not.
See, that's what I'm intrigued about. I'm wondering if he gave him a pardon because the judicial system, if the sources are correct, were like,
right.
We didn't do this right, you know.
Again, that goes back to the whole thing with Obama, where he, in his last few months of office, where he was pardoning convicted felons. You could argue they were guilty too. Why should their pardon be any less allowable than if, in fact, Sheriff Arpaio was in fact guilty?
But that's what's crazy to me is that so many right-wingers were so upset with Obama when he pardoned all those people. And again, this is happening again. All these left-wingers are upset that Trump has I'm like...
Because it's a partisan thing. People are always throwing...
It's always a partisan
It's always
thing.
Instead of looking at the facts and going, okay, the guy wasn't as guilty as everybody says he was, or, yeah, the guy really was as guilty as everybody says he is, they go, oh, no, Trump pardoned him, and I don't like Trump, and I've got a D after my name, and because of that, I don't like conservatives and Trump, and blah, 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 blah. I hate what he's done. So instead of, like, being a smart human being and using your brain, and despite what side of the aisle you fall into, actually just looking at facts and coming to an informed conclusion.
I think my frustration with this Arpaio situation is not because Trump pardoned him. It's because that's what he decided to focus on when there is literally a massive hurricane flooding and demolishing southern Texas right now.
Well, like I said, when we talked about this before we started recording, I think as president, what I would have done is focused on the immediate issue, which was the hurricane.
Get your ass to Houston.
Yep, get my ass to Houston, figure out what we need to do to send relief, get the wheels turning, and then when things are going like they should, then turn my attention to this Sheriff Arpaio issue.
Yeah, because, okay, and this is the big, like, he was like, I had to take care of this, this pardon thing as quickly as possible in order to save his life. The guy's 85 years old. He's not going to prison.
The worst case, okay, let's say he did go to, which he's not going to. He's going to get house arrest at most.
Or
would have gotten it.
At
But let's say, for the sake of argument, playing devil's advocate, let's say they sent the poor old codger off to prison. And let's say he dies there. And let's say Trump was too busy focused on the hurricane, he didn't get around to pardoning. You can still pardon posthumously. You don't have to sit there and go, oh, well, it's too late now.
Yeah, but then everyone's defense is, well, he should have done it when he was alive.
Well,
he's 85,
like
okay?
I said,
He's getting there.
Trump could cure cancer, and people would bitch they didn't do it fast enough.
People are never going to do it fast enough.
So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But
that's on both sides, by the way. You have to
it
admit.
is on both sides.
You have to admit.
That people don't do things fast enough?
I mean, people are going to, damn you if you do, damn you if you don't.
Politics, dude. You're screwed either way.
That's life.
That's life.
That's not
right?
just politics.
Yeah,
that's life.
Done either way, dude. So,
I think that's my biggest frustration is not that he pardoned the guy. It's that there's so much more tumultuous insanity happening.
It's like
in this nation that this should be on the back burner.
It's like if you're running a triage center, and instead of dealing with the guy that has a 2x4 rammed through his gut, you go take care of the guy that stubbed his toe.
Exactly.
I'm like, that's
not good.
How you do it?
I'm definitely interested, and again, like it seems like race is like the biggest hot topic right now, but it is very interesting that many, both on the left and on the right, mostly on the left, I will admit.
You have
those
to admit.
those of us on the left are more so uproarious about this, but it's very interesting that this is happening, and a lot of people are stating that this is in fact Trump defending racism, or anybody.
Which is
defending racism.
First off, that is such a far-fetched idea. To jump to that conclusion, you have to go through 6 different degrees of separation and then some. to go, oh my God, well, because Trump pardoned this guy, who again may or may not have actually been guilty of all of it, we don't know. But because of the issues that are clouded in doubt and uncertainty, and because Trump, as president of the United States and leader in the free world, is able to make this judgment call on his own and pardon somebody, somehow we jump to the conclusion that, oh, he pardoned the sheriff, so he must be supporting racism and bigotry and white supremacy and neo-Nazism and blah 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 blah. What? What jump of logic got you there?
From what I can recall, and I don't remember him denouncing racism. I've heard him denounce violence. I've heard him denounce a multitude of things. Have not once heard him denounce racism. So I don't know. I think that's one reason why a lot of people are up in arms, because I don't know if he's actually... I mean, he won't single out by name white supremacists and neo-Nazis.
But I feel like now...
But now he won't even generalize, like, you know, denouncing racism either, per se.
I don't know. I just feel like this whole thing is getting petty. It's like, oh, he didn't say verbatim, word for word neo-Nazism. He just said hate and violence and blah blah blah. He needs to come right out and say it. Okay, let's switch roles. What if this was President Barack Obama? Would we be getting the same crap from the left? We'd probably be getting the same crap from the right. But would we be hearing from the left, well, he isn't saying neo-Nazi and white supremacist. What's the matter, Obama? What are you doing over there? Like, I don't think that would be an issue.
I would say that it is possible. I would say it would be very small.
I don't know. I
It
feel
would
like
be a small fringe group.
I feel like this is just, again, this
But
is a
there
political
ha-
thing.
Right, but there have been plenty of liberals that have been pretty critical of some shit that Obama pulled. Like,
True.
I know for a fact that Bill Maher and John Oliver have made some pretty... Especially Bill Maher. Bill Maher was pretty, even as a liberal...
Which I was shocked when he did.
He was pretty critical of a lot of stuff that Obama did, that he was like, that might not have been...
And that, it might not have been kosher. And like, yeah.
But again, very far and
right,
few
I was
going to
say, those are very, very
I would definitely
small.
agree.
We're not seeing the multitude of people pitching a fit because he didn't say the exact verbatim words, white supremacist.
I think that's the difficulty, is that when you're in a position of power, like the presidency, when you're in the limelight to such a degree as that, it's a cautionary tale. Like, you have to...
Yeah, you have to,
if
you're
you're
smart, you'll say something.
You have to keep your P's and Q's. Like.
Right, but again, I chalk that up to just the inexperience of the man in the office. It's like, okay, he's not a politician. He hasn't had to go through this kind of thing. He's only recently got his people in order, so he hasn't had people going, hey, this is what you need to say.
You mean his cabinet?
His cabinet.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
I thought you meant the party. I'm like,
no,
fuck that.
no.
The Republican Party is off its fucking rocker
hopeless
right now.
Every single one of them,
Anyway,
yeah,
but I want to buy him a thesaurus. Like, I'm just tired of just like, he's got the best words. He's got the best words. Like, what words? Like,
I love the fact that he just repeats himself again, and that clarifies it. Like, if
clarifies
you repeat
it,
yourself twice, it's gonna be huge. It's gonna be a huge. It's gonna be so huge. Like, that's gonna.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you gave me.
That's all you gave me.
Come
That's
on,
nothing.
man.
That's nothing.
Give me more.
Come on.
So I will say
Paint the fucking
Paint the
picture for
picture.
me.
I'm a visual guy. Give me something. But again, I just chalk that up to him not being politically
The inexperience.
He's inexperienced.
Yeah.
So I don't think he means anything malicious, and I feel like he's getting a lot of flack, and people are passing a lot of judgment, and they're calling him a lot of names. That, quite frankly, I'm like, well, where are you getting all this from? Is this just because you hate the guy? Is it because he's not Hillary Clinton? I mean, what's your logic?
Well, take it from me, who's a liberal, per se. It has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton, because
No.
she said everything right and did everything wrong, so...
Again, like I've said before, the election was hers to lose,
Yeah.
and she lost it.
I'll reiterate again. It really bothers me that this was the thing that needed to be taken care of. Again, when there are people who are losing their homes.
Yeah.
Actual American citizens, American taxpayers are losing their homes and their livelihood. And so far, we've seen the president say nothing.
Well, as of
about
today,
it.
he is on his way to Houston.
Finally!
Finally!
It took him long enough.
Finally! Dude, look what they were
The
saying.
hurricane's been there for like a while now, buddy.
Well, dude, you can't fly into a... Hey, let's bring Air Force One in the middle of a hurricane. Hang on, Mr. President! This is gonna be bumpy! What?
I thought Air Force One was built to sustain that kind of shit.
It's built to sustain the EMP blast of a nuclear bomb. It's not sustaining the, G-force winds. They're gonna make it go sideways. Still, physics still plays into it, dude.
But I have an inkling and suspicion that a nuclear bomb is more powerful than a hurricane.
The EMP blast... Oh, never mind. I'm not getting it. The point is...
We're going to get into a physics...
We're going to... It's going to hurt my brain. I don't want to do that right now. So my point is, he's actually, you know, he's making an effort.
I realize
I would have liked to have seen him made the effort, or like you say, or at least
I
address
would, yes,
it
I would have
first
liked to
before
address
the Joe or thing.
Exactly.
So I
That's
agree.
what I wanted to. And
I
you know
agree.
what? If by chance that he should have been judged in front of a jury of his peers, then yes, the judicial system
Failed.
screwed this
Yep.
one. Because
It
I
did.
theorize that if he was judged fairly, like it's supposed to by the Sixth Amendment,
Mm-hmm.
I really believe Trump would have left it alone.
I would think so. I would have if I were president. If I go, okay, the process.
Yeah.
When
now,
it worked.
granted, but on the flip side of it, if he was judged by a jury of his peers, was convicted and found guilty, and then Trump still pardoned him, then I'd have a little more understanding about the outcry.
Yeah. I would probably have a little bit more outcry myself. I'd be
Yeah.
like, okay, that
Yeah.
wasn't cool, dude.
Something that I'll pose here to kind of leave people with, and it's going to be a hard question because he has been accused of these various
Infringements.
these
Misconduct.
misconducts, and a lot of them deal with racial profiling, which of course is wrong. But if in fact the stats of the decrease in the crime rate in his county, and let's just say the overall state of Arizona, if the facts are true, if crime did decrease, the question is this: as wrong as it is, does racial profiling work?
That's the question you're posing to the listeners, or
I'll
everybody?
pose it to anyone, to you, to the listeners. I mean, it's wrong.
Does it work?
It work? Now, I'm not. Now, I'm also going to, and this is going to be, hard because it's, because of me and my white privilege.
Darn your white privilege. Where'd you double park that Mercedes?
This includes, white people as well. Because I know for a fact there have been plenty of times that a lot of groups organized by blacks or Native Americans or Asians or whoever have, in fact, segregated white people from being involved with them, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. It happens. It's how it is. But again, if the facts and the stats are true about the crime rate because of the way he conducted his militant ways, does racial profiling work?
If they are true, then by the facts alone, I would have to begrudgingly say yes.
That's the hard thing, is that begrudgingly we'd have to admit, yes, it works. It's wrong.
Yeah.
It is absolutely
I was going to say that
wrong.
on the flip side, does it mean that's right? No. But does it work? Yes.
And that's the difficulty, the line between what is right and what is duty.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difficult thing here.
The line that also gets people into an argument is the line between what is wrong and what works.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
It is a tough one. And again, he's been accused of these things. There is some evidence of it, but so far there's been no
hardcore absolution
Yeah.
in those claims. And that's where my problem lies. If somebody could come up to me, first-hand account, go through that entire list and go, yes, here's this, here's that, here's blah, 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 and here's what happened, and here's why it was bad, and what he did was wrong, then I'd go, okay, we got us a problem.
Yeah.
But I just don't see that here.
Yeah.
And because of that, I can't give you my honest 100% judgment, and I don't think anybody else can either, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't pass judgment without having all of the concrete facts, which we simply don't have. And again, as president, if I don't have the facts, and because of that I feel that you were wrongly accused and wrongly incarcerated or whatever it is, then I'm probably going to be more apt to give you a pardon.
Yeah. God, this is a tough one, dude.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, we definitely don't hit easy subjects on this show, that's for sure.
But I think I think if I can just make a comment before we start wrapping things up here, I think just again, like the mission statement of what we're all about here at Star Spangled Banter is we try very hard to find the facts. We try very hard to find the truth amongst the quagmire of craziness that we all sift through.
Trust me, it's a
day in
lot.
and
We have
day
to
out.
sift through. We only have a week to sift through the craziness. So.
I still can't get over that Robert Lee thing. I'm still laughing about it in my head.
Right? Unbelievable.
But that's the truth of it. The truth of it is that we don't know if he made a stink about it. We don't know if ESPN compensated him. Or let's say they gave him a raise. Let's say that because we're doing this, we're going to increase your salary by 10% or some shit like that. And that's going to be your annual salary until
you leave.
until whenever. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know the facts of it. Now, it's stupid what they did, personally. But again, we don't have the full truth about it. So for me, it's just, let's really do what we can to find the truth. And honestly, maybe there's something that we're not seeing with this pardon that other people do see.
Right.
And if you do see it, please let us know. Comment on the video, comment on the Facebook post.
Yep.
let us know, because
Send us an email.
yeah.
I don't, it doesn't matter.
Send us links to articles, send us statistics, send us whatever you know.
Because we're only going on what we have for our research and for our sources, and we're only giving you our opinion. We're not trying to perpetuate news, and we're not trying to tell you to think one way or another. We're just saying, from the news that we have and the sources that we have, this is what we feel about such and such.
Exactly.
But if you have
please,
something that you can clarify it, or that you can add to help bolster the conversation, by all means, please send it.
Yes.
Because conversation is what we're all about.
Be involved in the conversation. Be involved in the debate. We want to hear your voice. Just as much as you hear our voices, we would also like to hear your voices.
Absolutely. And that's actually a good segue into my final word. My final word being start a conversation. Be part of the conversation. Look, obviously, if this episode has shown us anything, is that the lunatics are in danger of taking over the asylum. If they haven't taken it over already.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. But the only way you can combat all of this uncertainty and insanity, and the only way you can combat that gray area and sort of this fog of war, if you will, is to start a conversation or join a conversation, to actually talk openly with people about what's going on. Whether it's a movie, whether it's somebody who's narrating a sports game, whether it's a pardon, whatever it happens to be, talk about it. Make it a point of discussion. Don't bury your head in the sand and hope it goes away, because obviously they're not. These are things that are not going away, and we shouldn't look at them as being things that we can't address or taboo. We need to look at these things as being opportunities to have conversation and opportunities to learn lessons, because otherwise we're in danger of dumbing ourselves down.
Yeah.
And we're in danger of forgetting our history, and we're in danger of just passing judgment that we're, quite frankly, not allowed to do.
Don't be afraid to be offended.
Exactly. I guess that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to be offended. And once you're offended, turn that into a conversation.
Yeah.
A constructive conversation, and allow it to naturally grow.
Truth be told, though, all this happened in Arizona, which, I mean, these are the people that decided, hey, this is a spot. It's 130 degrees outside. Why not build a metropolis here?
I feel at home right here.
So if there is any insanity going on in Arizona, it's just because they're suffering from heat
stroke.
Like, give them an umbrella. Give them something.
Give them a bottle of water.
Seriously.
So
Arizona.
can't drive, can't figure shit out. Arizona. Oh God. Anyway,
isn't Arizona one of the retirement states? It's like up there with like Florida.
Which I could never understand why someone wants to retire to someplace that gets hit by monsoon hurricanes every year, but whatever.
I can understand why people want to retire in an oven, but people still go to Arizona, so
I guess so. Hey, I figure if you're at death's door, why not, right?
Oh, I mean,
harsh.
Yeah, but not wrong.
Yeah. Well, with all of that, folks, we're going to leave you with this. Again, thanks for stopping by and joining us here at Star Spangled Banter. We love having you. We love talking at you. We love you listening. And please, again, feel free to give us your feedback and your opinion.
Hell yeah.
Most importantly, as always, stay cool out there and leave the crazy, plenty of it, to us.
Rock on, motherfuckers.
See ya, peeps.